Welcome back to another edition of CCS & Sons Workshop. In this video, I'm going to show you how I built a custom-sized Apple box for a relative who works in the film industry. For those of you who aren't familiar, an Apple box is a box that's used in film production for cast and crew to use as a seat or stool or some kind of a stand. This was a custom-sized box with a cutout to fit over a battery pack on a camera operator's cart. Even if you aren't interested in making an Apple box, this video will hopefully be helpful as a guide on how to make just a nice simple plywood box for any number of purposes. The first step of the project is to cut the sheet goods down to their usable sizes. As with any box, you have 6 sides, a front, a back, a top, a bottom, and 2 side pieces. That's what I'm cutting out on the table saw now. I'm not going to bother describing the dimensions of this. As I mentioned, this is a custom-sized box, one of a kind. Never going to find another one like it, so I'll give you my autograph now. And here you can see the 6 pieces that we're going to use to make the box. Now the real work begins. And just to make sure everything was going to fit together correctly, I dry fit the whole box to double check. Because the back and the bottom of the box have a cutout to allow this box to sit over a battery pack, I used a Forstner bit to drill holes at the extents of the cutout, which would then allow me to use a jigsaw to final cut the cutout. And now that the back has its cutout, it's time to do the corresponding hole on the bottom. And this is just a dry fit of how the bottom and the back of the box fit together to make that cutout for the battery pack. I then used my spindle sander just to clean up all the rough edges that the jigsaw left behind. Because every good box needs a good handle, I used the Forstner bit to drill 2 holes out, and then I used the jigsaw to cut out the remaining material and resulted in a handle. I used a 1/8 roundover bit in my trim router for the exposed edges in the handle, and when finished I did the same process across all the edges of the finished box. And the first 2 pieces that I connected together were the front and bottom with the cutout. Next, I attached the 2 side pieces. And now it's starting to look like a real box. As I was progressing through the build, I thought it might be a good idea to add a second structural element inside the box, just in case anybody sat on the box lengthways. So I cut out an extra piece of plywood and glued it inside the middle of the box. And now it was time to attach the back piece with the full cutout. If you're enjoying this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, and if you're new here and want to see more, hit subscribe. Then I laid out a couple pipe clamps to be able to clamp the top down to the whole box, put some glue on the top, and attach the top piece. To clean up all the edges, I used a flush trim bit in my trim router along all of the glue joints. Off camera, I filled all the brad nail holes with wood putty, so then I used my random orbital sander just to clean up the residue. And then I rounded over all the exposed edges with a 1/8 round over bit. And of course I had to add a final touch with my personalized brand. I added 3 coats of water-based polyurethane, wipe-on poly, and then sanded between each coat with 220 sandpaper. Looking back on the project, I think the only thing I might have done different would be use a different type of joint for the plywood connections, possibly a lap or half lap joint rather than the butt joint that I used. I do like the look of the exposed plywood edges, but a different type of joint might add some additional structural support. So far so good on this holding up. We'll see over time and I'll report back. As always, thanks for watching CCS & Sons Workshop. We really appreciate it. If you haven't hit subscribe already, consider doing so, and we'll see you in the next video. Thanks.